So far, I have cried, I have laughed, I have gotten angry, I've gotten so high on adrenaline, and then I've gone through episodes of depression, and then I started questioning my entire life and existence, and I'm not even 2/3 of the way through writing my novel. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, purposeful souls. Could you tell us why we are here today? You're here to discuss the writing process of your fantasy novel. Right. We all hate a backstory, so I'm not going to bore you with one. I'm just going to give you a sentence. I do not have a literary background. I studied film in university, which I guess there is a connection there. I've written ever since I was, I'm not going to say child, but like ever since I was a teen. I just love creating, not just writing. I just love creating. That is my purpose, and I know it. And that is why I'm creating this fantasy novel. Now don't fret, this video won't be all talk, there will be visual refreshments, such as, care to show them? We've got your MacBook, we've got a binder full of juice, we've got maps, we've got Scrivener, we've got a keyboard, just you wait. So, the process of writing this novel, how it started. First, the genre. I bought this book, Alone with You in the Ether, and just by looking at the cover and the feel of it, and for some reason I had a feel of what the context was going to be of this book, even though I hadn't read a word and I haven't read any reviews about it, but for some reason I just knew. And just the cover, and there was just an energy about that book that just made me feel like I want to write one. I want to hold my own book between my hands, and I've written ever since I could remember, so why not? So just try. It could go nowhere and it could go somewhere. So I sat down and I decided to start writing a novel that was probably like, okay, a bit whimsical, but it wasn't fantasy, probably a romance, shed some light on mental health, blah, blah, blah. But when I sat down, I couldn't come up with anything except like fantasy ideas, and I just said, girl, no, that's a whole world. You have no knowledge about it. There are terms, there are magic systems. It's too overwhelming, it's too intimidating. You cannot do that. So I just kept, pushing that away, all of the fantasy thoughts, pushing them away. But then I decided one day when I was sitting here looking at this piece of paper, so blocked, I was like, you know what, just see where it goes, write it, because it's like my brain is trying to tell a story. Even if I don't end up writing it as a novel, just put it out. It needs to leave here and just manifest. And so I started writing just one little tiny idea, and writing and writing and writing. And now we're like almost 100,000 words in to our fantasy novel. The first step, of course, after taking the decision that, okay, I was gonna follow through with that idea, was brain dumping. The brain dump, oh my god, the thoughts, they were all over the place. You can take a look at the brain dump and the thought process. It looks hideous, it looks like a mess, and I don't know if you can see, but whatever. So that happened. Through this process, I have discovered that I am not a plotter, I'm a pantser. And I do have a general idea of where my plot is going, of where I want the story to head, but it happens through the process. So this is where I got a few solid ideas of what I want to write about. This is where, through the brain dump, I found the essence of the story. So that is all I had. And around that essence, I started world building, like, because I had the idea and I had an image of what the world looked like. It was there in my head. So I just wrote a few things down, just very small, basic things. And then it started evolving and my world started building faster. And while my world was building, I started writing my first chapter or my prologue. Everything started happening parallel each other. As I started writing, the world kept growing and building, and the magic system found its way into the story, and the characters made an appearance, and I was like, oh my god, hi, so nice to meet you, welcome to my world. And so that is how everything came together. Usually, however, when I sit to start writing, I just have a general idea of where I want this chapter to go, And so I have that in the back of my mind, or I write it so I don't forget because I have the memory of a fish. And then I start writing. But the characters seem to have a mind of their own, and they instead decide to take my story somewhere else. Like my main character would go, bitch, this is not what I would do. Do you even know me? It's funny to think you're the one writing me. And so she takes my story someplace else, and then I end up someplace else. Now the themes are still there and the plot is still there, but the location may change, the dialogue may change, her attitude may change, but it is what it is. You know, sometimes you just have to sit back and watch the story unfold in front of you. Enough with the boring stuff. As I started writing my story, this revealed itself. The board you see right there. Now, you're probably thinking, Natalia, I thought you do not outline. What are those? There's a structure here. Yes, as I write, events start revealing themselves and plot twists, and you know how the mind is, and it's just all over the place. And so you start writing, and then things keep changing. And anyway, so I kind of write them onto these little sticky notes of just general events, or maybe there's just a scene that's so irrelevant to the plot, but it just looks good. I just want it to be there. I just write my ideas down and stick them in a specific order on this board here. Now I am currently right here, and just a few days ago, these like 4 or 5 sticky notes were all switched around, and I had a different structure to what was going to be happening next. But then my character decided, no, I'm bored, I need some action, we need to go to the ash caves now. And I was like, okay, fine. And so the events were switched around. A lot of things get changed, a lot of things get cancelled, a lot of new things find their way into the plot. But this kind of helps. This kind of helps organize the brain a little bit. It's always good to have an idea where your story is going. So you're not just writing, you know, random blah gibberish. It makes your life easier. It helps you weave, you know, your nuggets into the story, and just make everything kind of put together. They change, of course, but the general idea of where this is going, it is in my brain. The ending is in my brain. Another thing that revealed itself during the early stages of the writing process was the map. I had not planned to have a map, or at least I hadn't really thought about it. As I started writing, new cities came to be, and lands and things like that. And so I had to, you know, have a visual representation of it so I can see it in my head. Like, okay, this city is east of that city, and that is what, but you know, so I just kind of drew a map just for myself. But then that map became something, it became the essence, it became a part of the book. Keep in mind, I can't draw for shit, and this thing just happened in the very early chapters, so some things are not even named yet. But this is the map of the world, and this is the map of this city right here. Right here, this city here. So even the map keeps growing as I go. Everything is just growing with me. Yes. Let's talk structure. Do I have the ending? I already mentioned I did. When did I decide what the ending was going to be? Does it change? Yes, the ending is ever changing. However, the main root idea is there, and it is what I am writing towards, but the elements around it do change. Naturally, as you write the story, a lot of elements come into play, and there are all of these different aspects and things and dates and systems and cities and characters and their quirks, and just with any story that's the case. How I organize mine, everything that has to do with my novel, it's organized on Scrivener. Scrivener is what I use. The categories that I have here in my binder on Scrivener are basically, to break them down, I have my manuscript, in it are the chapters. I have my characters. I have a category that's for the location and the cities and the lands. Then there's world building, and under it are subcategories such as general world building and history, magic system, species and races, creatures, weaponry, history books, diary entries. The last two may not make sense to you, but they do to my story. Another category is plot stuff and scenes. Another is just notes. I bought this keyboard. How pretty is it? Because at some point I was blocked and I felt like that would inspire me to write again, and it kind of did, I'm not gonna lie, it worked. Now I could get deeper into this, but it's never ending. I could tell you about how I make my character profiles, where I get inspiration from, some Pinterest boards, some blah blah, but that's going to take too long, and there's, you know, I could just keep going and going and going. So I think it's better to end this video here. Thank you for watching and pray for me and goodbye.